Hello there, people of the internet. Here inside the United States, we are limited to rifles that have a size of a 16-inch barrel or more. So we're going to go ahead and just completely ignore that law like it does not exist. I'm sure that statement is going to make all the ATF guys who are watching this like sit up in their chair and move towards the screen and whatnot. This right here is just a discussion. We're not actually doing anything illegal, but for the sake of the argument that we're making here, let's go ahead and just act like that there are no SBR laws here inside of the US. So let's go ahead and take a step back to, I don't know, 200 years ago. Back in the day, before smokeless powder was a thing, before cartridge firing technology was a thing, and muskets were predominantly being used by all sorts of forces all over the world, you needed a nice long barrel to achieve decent velocities from your projectiles, because the pressures inside of that barrel needed to be maintained for a long period of time in order to properly propel that projectile forward. I'm sorry guys, I'm quite worn out here, but I'm still going to make this video. Those expanding gases propelling that projectile forward would do a much better job if they had more time to be able to propel that projectile forward before it came out of the barrel, and the expanding gases went, into the atmosphere that is around said firearm. This way you can achieve as much velocity as possible. So firearms back then were nice and long. Combine that with the types of warfare that were being fought during that time period where people were firing in volleys, and you needed a nice long rifle. Now, fast forward a couple of years, a couple of decades, and smokeless powder is now a thing. Repeating rifles are now a thing. However, we still have nice long rifles simply due to the traditions of what was going on previous to this time period. So now we have modern powder with modern technology, but we're still rocking these long rifles. After World War I, it was seen that these long rifles were completely over-encumbersome and completely unnecessary, and during this time period is where we start to see countries really start to shift to having smaller and smaller rifles. Basically the same style of rifles that they had developed in the 1880s, they just had smaller versions of them. Now fast forward a little bit farther, World War II, we start seeing self-loading firearms technology begin to progress, and then fast forward a while beyond that, and we start to see this self-loading technology take the same lessons that they took in World War I, and the barrels begin to shorten even more and even more. Now there is a what would you call it? There is a difference or a distinguishable notice between the amount that you can lengthen or shorten a rifle, and whenever the shortening of the rifle becomes a con to the level of the con outweighing the pros of shortening that rifle. Now the pros of shortening your rifle, you get a smaller, less cumbersome rifle, oftentimes going to be lighter. However, some of the cons is that it achieves not as significant a velocity, and once you get to a certain level of compact nature, you start to lose capabilities with that particular firearm. Now, we had to shorten our rifles a lot before we got to the level of seeing rifles that were dealing with situations where their compact nature rendered them basically useless. Like, for example, here inside the United States, we are limited, like I said, to 16-inch barrels, and I got myself an AK right here. This right here does have a 16-inch barrel on it, but the AK, the 7.62x39 cartridge, does not require a 16-inch barrel in order to fully burn all of its powder and achieve maximum velocity capabilities. You could actually get away with shortening this barrel quite a bit before you start seeing a significant decrease in velocity with the 7.62x39. So a cartridge like this right here would be a lot more suited to shortening your barrel as opposed to a cartridge like, say, 30-06, especially for running it through a system like the M1 Garand or something like that, Garand, however it is that you want to pronounce that, where shortening your barrel decreases the capabilities of that cartridge significantly, especially as you get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. Eventually it gets to the point where most of your powder is just burning outside of the barrel, and all you're doing is flashbanging yourself and everybody around you. However, even with a platform like this, it does get to the point to where you find yourself in a situation that as you get more and more compact, the firearm becomes less and less controllable. For the most part, we are able to have some very, very, very compact and capable systems set up to be more or less a PDW, personal defense weapon, as opposed to an actual rifle. And a lot of them are in configurations like this right here. Many of them will be much more compact with shorter barrels, perhaps even shorter handguards or anything like that, maybe even folding or telescoping stocks. However, those right there are going to be less comfortable, less accurate because they tend to wobble and move around and whatnot, less capable than a rifle that is of this size. However, the capabilities of that rifle have not diminished enough to where the decrease in capabilities is enough of a con to say we don't need that decrease in capabilities. They would rather have the shorter package because that shorter package is still capable of handling the things that most people would need that shorter package to be able to handle. I haven't shot this rifle in a minute. I think my still silhouette is somewhere in those woods there. I just kind of blasted that little area right there. I have no idea where that still is. It's somewhere in those vines. I'll have to dig that out down the road. But as you get more and more compact with a firearms system like this, a firearm system that is clearly set up to be a rifle style system, then you start to really see diminishing returns. You get a more compact, more lightweight firearm, but you get something that is not necessarily all that great. Like, for example, if we were to continue to compress this AK platform, you know, get rid of the stock, like shorten the receiver, shorten the handguard, shorten the systems inside of the AK in general. If we were to really compact this thing down and get ourselves, like, say, a Draco AK, then we go from something that is capable, that is quite compact as is, that is capable out to like 400 yards or so, to the Draco AK, which, you know, good luck using that thing effectively beyond like 30 yards or so. Definitely not the most ideal of situations. Now, you could use a Draco beyond 30 yards. I'm just, you know, that's a hyperbole right there. But that's a rifle system, which is designed to be a rifle system. So as you compact it more and more, it becomes less and less capable. Now, that system is designed to be a certain size and a certain length. And so once you pull it out of that, I thought I had something crawling on me. Once you pull it out of that threshold of its capabilities, then you start to see diminishing returns. A rifle that is that small and that compact is not worth the loss in capabilities that you would get from a full-size rifle. Now, once you go to a platform that is designed to be small and compact like that, like, say, this right here, this is significantly more compact than a Draco AK, and this right here is significantly more capable than a Draco AK. This is a handgun platform that is designed to be a small, compact style of system in comparison to one of the rifle systems. Now, all of that being said, this right here being a compact system, I use that term very loosely because I'm comparing it to rifle systems. This right here is capable out to much longer ranges than your Draco AK. I've seen these things taken out, like a specifically 1911's taken out to 150, 200 plus yards. Now, granted, that is, you know, expert marksman shooting right there, but, well, I know I myself have made shots out at 100 yards with our 1911. Granted, I'm not an expert and I missed multiple rounds, but it can be done. But this right here, much easier to shoot than something like a Draco AK, especially if you're trying to shoot accurately. And I only had a couple of rounds in this thing. But as we go from this compact size of a firearm that is designed to be a specific size to fit your hand for a specific need and have a specific role, this too continues to lose capabilities as it gets smaller and smaller. If we take the idea of a handgun and we make it nice and small and compact, this right here is a Taurus Spectrum 380, we make it nice and minuscule, you lose a lot of capabilities with that simply because it is smaller. Now, since it is smaller, it is easier to conceal, easier to carry around. It's not nearly as heavy, not nearly as over-encumbering. You don't have to worry about printing with something like this in the same way that you would have to worry about with a 1911. This is just all around a better means to carry a firearm. However, odds are, if you have yourself a nice small handgun like this, you're going to lose power because it's going to be a weaker cartridge. If it is a more powerful cartridge, like if this was chambered in 45 ACP like the 1911, the recoil on this tiny little thing would be absolutely unfathomable. Is that the word I'm looking for? You would not be able to stand it. It's something that you would not be able to handle for long periods of time, and that is just the nature of your smaller compact firearm. This right here has less weight with it, especially since it has a polymer frame, and so as a result the recoil is going to be much heavier on a firearm system like this in comparison to a larger steel frame handgun. On top of heavier recoil, if you are rocking the same cartridge or just diminishing your capabilities with said cartridge, you're going to diminishing accuracy significantly because your ability to actually grip and hold onto said firearm in the same way that you would for a full-sized handgun is simply less. The sight radius is simply less. The capabilities of the handgun is simply less. It's not designed to be as effective and as efficient as the larger handguns. This right here is an example of where a more compact system reaps more benefits than the capabilities of a larger system. Personally, I would say that this right here is absolutely as compact as I would want to go. There are smaller, more compact handguns out there, but this right here is already really pushing it for me. I have shot this thing out at about 40 yards. I got about 50% accuracy with it. They're not necessarily the most accurate of firearms, especially considering the barrel is about 1.5 inches long. So, yeah, well, the rifled section of the barrel is about 1.5 inches long. So yeah, it's not necessarily going to be the most accurate or the most capable handgun. But as you start to decrease in size and get more and more compact, you start to really diminish your capabilities with your firearm. So we lose, we see more diminishing returns whenever it comes to getting a more compact handgun, because this right here is already quite compact enough to be able to serve more or most of the purposes that most people would need a compact handgun to serve, but it's still adequate enough in capabilities to be able to do the job if you end up needing it to do the job. So although this right here is not the greatest to shoot, not the most accurate, not the most comfortable, not the most controllable, it is significantly easier to use than something, or significantly easier to keep concealed and whatnot and to carry around than something like this right here, despite the fact that this right here would be easier to use in the long run. The same concept goes with your shorter, more compact rifles in comparison to a full-length rifle like this. You could shorten this package up quite a bit if we did not have laws restricting us from doing so to make quite the effective and efficient personal defense weapon. However, as you do that, once you get to a certain point of a compact nature, you get to that point of seeing diminishing returns and the capabilities of the rifle being diminished enough to where it is no longer effective as a personal defense weapon because you simply cannot control it properly. Anyway, I think I beat this horse absolutely into the ground. Thank you ever so much for watching, folks. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. I need to oil this AK because we got a little bit of surface rust starting to pop up on this thing, so I'll have to take care of that. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode, and of course, let me know what you guys' thoughts is in the comments. You guys are always really good at doing that. I'll see y'all later. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.